Go ahead and admit everybody. All right, welcome everybody, and to a Freethinkers Corner, Books and More. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask everybody to stay muted just for now. As we get going, we'll maybe bring you up, especially if you do have. Well, we'll get to that. If you do have questions or comments, just use the chat bar for right now, and I'll bring you up to ask your question to. Well, right now, Elizabeth, Kris is hopefully will be joining us soon. And so I'd like to thank you all for joining us. And
so amazing. This is so good. This is so good. Here you go, Lily Mammoth. Sleep tight. Oh my God, I love it.
oops. All right, so all right, so here we go. So like to again welcome you all to a Freethinkers Corner of Books and More. We have with us two guests today. One right now, we have main author and CEO Elizabeth Hamilton-Guarino. She's one of America's foremost personal and corporate consultants, specializing in mindset, strategy, leadership, and actions. As a trusted leader, influencer, consultant, trainer, and speaker, and best-selling author, she's helped thousands around the globe be their best and achieve world-class excellence. Elizabeth is an author of multiple award-winning books in the self-help and children's book genres. Two of her books, Percolate and Every Lesson for Every Child, is available at our store and on our website. Her latest book, Pinky Doodle Bug, is on its way. That will be available shortly. Our second guest today is Kris Fuller. Hopefully she'll be joining us soon. She's the author of 52-Week Journal. She is a blogger. She loves writing and poetry. She is the CEO of Your Life Sparkles and co-creative chair of the Best Ever You Network, along with Elizabeth. She's an inspirational speaker and has a wonderfully positive energy. Without further ado, we'll have Elizabeth, please tell us a little bit more about yourself and your works.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And it's a really special moment, Kris. I'm very grateful for you for having events like this, especially during this time. So thank you for having me on to talk about my books. And I usually spend my life interviewing other people. So you guys might have to help me out and ask me some questions, because I'm certainly not used to spending an hour and a half talking about myself. But I'm 51. I'm a mom of 4 boys. First and foremost, they're ages 19 to 25. So they're 19, 21, 23, and 25. And one of them is with us. I'm impressed the youngest one joined in the call. So thank you, Quaid. And I'm the author of 5 books right now, with a 6th one coming out in May. I am an author with Hay House Publishing in California. That is the book Percolate, Let Your Best Self Filter Through. Should I hold them up, Kris? Would that work?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Hold them up, show them around.
Okay, so this is Percolate, Let Your Best Self Filter Through. This was published on 4/14/14. I love 4s. And it is a Hay House book. It's a best-selling book. Actually, it's been trending the past few days in the top 5 books in food allergies right now on Amazon. And in it are the 9 points of change. The Best Ever You Network at besteveryou.com was founded on 10 points of change and 6 principles. So 9 of them are in the book Percolate. And basically Percolate is a lot of coffee metaphors, but it details the process in which we as people go through change, whether we want to make a change or whether we're dealing with unforeseen circumstances. That process is in there, and it's a lot. If you love coffee, it's a great book. If you're a tea drinker, maybe not so much, but there's great information in there regardless. But one of the things that I love about Percolate so much is that my dad's story is in there. And my dad just passed away October 2018, but his story is in the book, and he was a stroke survivor from 2004 to 2018. And one of the stories I tell from that book a lot is the story of him surviving his strokes, but in a speech therapy session. They had gotten my dad kind of out of bed to go down to kind of evaluate whether he could talk, walk, and things like that. And the nurse warned my mom and I that most people in this condition don't say much. And in his case, when they played the alphabet game with him, A for him, he said aardvark. And we were like, oh boy, what is that? And then he said benevolence, courage, determination, excellence. F, unfortunately, was a swear word, which for the book I've changed to faith. And just this inspiring, amazing list of words to kind of let us know that he was not only there, but he was going to live through this. And up to that point, I had I was dealing with a change in my own life with having life-threatening food allergies. And I think up to that point, I felt really bad for myself and almost a victim. And that was a real moment for me. When I was sitting in that therapy session with my dad, I took out my journal and I wrote Percolate, the ABCs of Life. And that was the moment that this book was born. Originally, this was submitted to Hay House as the ABCs of Life. I still had Percolate kind of as a title in the background, but my original idea for this was like a teapot with letters coming out the teapot and so forth. So it was almost a tea book. But the process of this was really interesting because I almost self-published it as well. So that's Percolate. Kris, should I go through book by book or stop? And
it's up to you. If you like to go ahead and show each of your books, or if you'd like to go ahead and read from one of your latest one, it's all up to you. How do you want to do it?
The other ones I'll go through a little bit faster. I realize, we don't need to go through everything in that great a detail, but so from the point at which Percolate came out to 2020, I really had not written too much other than blogs. And a woman came into my life by the name of Sally Huss. And Sally is amazing. She's a children's book author. She's written 100 books. She's an artist and author. She's in the Occidental Hall of Fame for tennis. She's a former Wimbledon finalist, and she's over 80 years old. And I was just captivated by her books. So I, of course, have read everything she's ever written and am a fan and have her artwork around the house. And I just one day said, Sally, do you think we could do a book about food allergies? There's a tremendous need, because I have life-threatening food allergies, to have a book that allows children to be able to talk about their food allergies in their classroom to other children and so forth. And she said yes, which is a wonderful thing when people say yes. But this is the book, A Lesson for Every Child Learning About Food Allergies. And it's the story of this character, Jack, who has life-threatening food allergies. And he goes into his classroom, and with the permission of his teacher and parents, he talks to the class about his food allergies. And this book is available in both paperback and hardback. And it's endorsed by every major food or allergy organization. And it's so colorful and beautiful, and the characters. And one of the things that I know from having 25 years worth of food allergies is that people don't believe they're real, and people aren't very accepting of you and so forth. And this is a classroom full of people that just absolutely embrace him. And so we've made it kind of the way we hope it is for people with any kind of condition and so forth. So I love the end of, I'm going to give away the ending of this book. Sally always has little sweet messages at the end of her books. And so it says, the end, but not the end of eating what is best for you. When Jack was very young, he learned this little rhyme to help him accept his food allergies. I may wish I were another way and my food allergies would go away, but this they might never do. I must be glad there are just a few. Food allergies affect as many as 32 million Americans, including 6 million children. And we've included information on foodallergyawareness.org. So I'm a spokesperson for FACT and Medical Alert. I'm very grateful that they endorsed a lesson for every child learning about food allergies. So that's that one. And as I got to read more about Sally, hey Kris, as I got to learn more about Sally and reading her work, she had another book called she had another book, I just gave that away, called Positive Pete. And I was reading her book, Positive Pete, and I just love this character, and I love the certificate at the back of the book, and it's all about confidence for boys. And I said, Sally, we need another book, and we need one for girls, the same message for girls. And so I don't have a copy of this book with me. I have trouble keeping this one in stock. It's called Self-Confident Sandy, and it's a companion book to Positive Pete. And at the back of that book, there's a certificate and all sorts of, it's just a wonderful, positive self-confidence and wonderful image book for girls. So those three books kind of go hand in hand. Sally and I have learned when people buy them at bookstores or wherever, they usually buy the food allergy book, the Positive Pete book, and the Self-Confident Sandy book. So that leads me to Kris, because Kris just joined. That's the moment where I met Kris.
Hi.
You're there. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. I don't know what to blame. Time change, 2020, yard work, all of the above. But I'm so happy to be here. And it's Kris and Kris. Hi, how are you, Kris?
Yep,
Nice to
good.
put
How
it-
are you? How are you? Glad you could join us.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So 2020 has been really interesting because Kris Fuller has changed my life, and it probably going to bring tears to my eyes. She's just a wonderful soul, and we met. I'm gonna let you want to tell the story of how we met.
I sure
I'm gonna
do.
just cry over here.
I sure do. It has been life-changing, and we met earlier this year in January 12th to be exact, on a women's Facebook group for entrepreneurs supporting one another. And it's a group of 300,000 gals. And someone had written, what do you hope to learn this year? And I wrote, I'm the last to the party. I'm sure I'm the only one that doesn't know how to do Zoom. And tons of well-meaning girls wrote in, oh, it's easy, it's easy. But Elizabeth wrote me and she said, oh, me too. Let's Zoom. Let's do you want to Zoom in 20 minutes or how's tomorrow? And she was just like, boom. I was like, yes, that's my style. Because if we leave it, we won't do it. So we Zoomed, and then we Zoomed with another friend, and then we Zoomed with 12 people. David Strauss, you were a part of that, just to try to learn to figure out the platform. But in doing that, we spent time having conversations and getting to know one another. And lo and behold, all of these parallels were just like, honestly, hitting us, slapping us in the face. She runs the network Best Ever You, and I run Your Life Sparkles. We are all about loving yourself more, living and being your best, and lifting up your community with gratitude, with kindness, and just so many things. I mean, so besides all of that big stuff, all the little neat things are coming into, like we both love cats. We both have the middle name Marie. Like we've never met, although we did try, but then travel shut down. And so that's just one of those goals to meet. But besides getting to know each other, we have also now worked professionally on 5 or 6 projects and more to come. So you've got the journal there.
Yeah, I'll hold it up while you talk. How's that sound?
We wrote, designed, and published this journal, self-published it, but the artwork is done by, you talk about Sally. I heard you talking about her briefly before I came in because I came in late, but Sally did all of our artwork for that. So it's this lovely trio on that book. But writing and publishing this journal this year was amazing for 2 things. One, I'd always wanted to be a published author, writer, and now because of Elizabeth and her connections and her encouragement and her spark, this is published. I've got a young adult fiction work coming out in just over a month here. I've got, and we're working on the Pinky Doodle projects together. So it's just unleashed my inner author to that next level where I'm actually published, and I'm so excited about that. And I think, Elizabeth's like, she's changed my life. I have to say, you've changed mine too. And we couldn't have known. Like when I do my year-long plan for what am I going to do next year, there's no way you could have predicted meeting a fellow sparkle girl like Elizabeth and having so much in common. And then for most of the folks who know or follow me, my husband was diagnosed with cancer earlier this year. and then he passed away in July, and he was 43, and it was fast and it was terrible. And during that journey, that was also the time when Elizabeth and I were getting to know each other and doing projects. So when she says I was a light in her life, I can't say enough how much she also was a light in my life. And I think that's something we all need in this 2020, more light, more spark of joy, because it's hard right now. So that's our meeting nutshell, with a whole bunch of rambling on beyond that.
Okay.
I don't do short answers. I only do the long paragraph, but I will let you add anything else you want to there about, I guess.
Well, yeah. And well, I'm going to add about the journal, and I just want to let people know that this will be available at Kris's store as well. We're sending things and and
Great.
doing things, yeah. And the journal is really special because when you buy a journal, people go, "Oh gosh, it's $24.99." Yes, it is, but it's a guided journal. And so when you purchase this journal, on the inside of it are instructions to join a private Facebook group. And you get access to Kris and I for really as long as you want, because we're here, but it's guidance, and we do weekly videos and weekly live chats and all sorts of things to go prompt by prompt. And Kris, you always talk about how it's designed to join us anytime too, so it's not.
Yeah, there's a fluidity because we didn't put the prompts with dates. Nothing is seasonal, so you can really sort of come and go as you please. And the weekly prompt as well, and this was a perfect week for me. I really wanted to say, okay, I'm going to do it every Sunday, but I know myself, and I think, okay, when I put myself into a box with too much restriction, like I like a little structure, but with some maybe grace, some flexibility. So this week, we actually did our little Zoom call together, our chat, earlier today. So today's Thursday. So we've committed to once a week having a conversation and engaging our community. And we didn't choose a particular day because we wanted to give ourselves that little grace. A year commitment is long, and we're here for that. But within that, we realized that with you and your lives, things happened. And that was how it was for me. So last week was my birthday and Canadian Thanksgiving. And so it was just a very difficult first of many to come with what I was sort of dealing with in my life. And in our journal, one of the things we do every week is the prompt starts with 2 sort of check-in questions, like take an inventory of where you are and sort of seeing if there's something in your life causing stress or joy, because we think that's really important, checking in with yourself.
Yeah, and how you're going to answer that question. And I like today when we were talking, Kris was like, I'm going to need 2 journals, one for this year and going through all this, and then one for next. So, and we wrote it like that, actually. There are no dates in this. So you can use it like that if you need to. And who knows, maybe we'll come out with a different one or something. I have no idea what.
Yeah,
we're
I feel
do,
the need for a yellow one, so I think we will. But I want to
do that yellow.
I want to write journals with you forever.
I know. So
I love creating it with you, but I love writing in journals. Like if I could open my desk drawer right here and pull out all my little journals and notebooks, and if they've got beautiful sayings and cute flowers and hearts and cats and things that just make me joy looking, bring me smile. Okay. Make me smile or bring me joy. That's the sentences I was trying to put together there. Then I love that. And so that was one of the things Sally brought to life for us is I love those mugs on the front. Show the journal again with the little hearts. I just adore them. And I envision each of us sitting there with 2 little mugs. Kris Upton, you could join us too. We'll get a 3rd mug with a heart.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get you some mugs.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the end of this too. We're kind of into certificates and all things that are, say, hey, you're your best.
Yes.
You want to talk about that while I hold that up?
Yeah. So it's just a certificate that says your name on that bar. You would write that in, says you've completed the 52 weeks of self-reflection, honesty, and improvement. And we congratulate you on committing to being your best ever you. It's a lifelong journey, but after doing 52 weeks, like Elizabeth said, when you get a year-long journal, that's a big thing. Lots of my books are just sort of like free pages and I go through it in a month and then I'm on to the next. And so this one, having it be 52 weeks that you're going to continually go back to and continually keep using and writing in, we thought you would be well deserving of a certificate at the end. And I do love certificates. So when Ben, my husband, he was a gardener and I used to help him very rarely. But when I did, I would make certificates, print them, bring them to him and say, you're the CEO of Fuller Greens. Our last name is Fuller. I'm like, can you just sign this for me? I'm getting an achievement award in dirt moving today. And he was such a good sport.
Watering. So you did watering.
I gave myself a watering award. And it was June here was the rainiest month ever. I posted a video and my followers are like, that is a bold faced lie. You did not water, Mother Nature watered for you. But I was like, I don't care. I'm getting a certificate. But it's all part of that sparkle and silliness that I also like. You know, I think there's so much space for us to like be real and get to know yourself and be honest, but you have to have joy too.
Yeah. And I think our collaboration just brings such joy to every not just us, but to people around us. And I'm going to keep going to talk about that because about a year and a half ago, I signed on for a book called Pinky Doodle Bug. And here it is in its final project. But this is one of those things, again, where it wouldn't be what it is without, you know, Kris Fuller. And it is so much fun to collaborate on things because, you know, you serve up an idea and the idea takes a new twist or turn or rhyme. In this case, I don't know all the rules for poetry. You know, I'll be like, oh, that sounds good, that rhymes or whatever. And you do. And so it was really neat to work on this and the story. And the other thing too, my son Quaid is on the call with us, but Quinn, let's mention Quinn, one of the older kids, he was looking at Pinky Doodle Bug and he said, Mom, this needs friends. And I was like, oh, what a cool idea that is. So the book is dedicated to Quinn and to Kris Fuller for bringing this to life. And Chris Upton, do you want us to read this a little bit, or should I go ahead and do that? Or are
Sure.
we talking too much? We aren't sure.
Nope, absolutely. Just keep on going. Doing fine.
Awesome.
If I hold it up, Kris, do you want to read it? Would that work?
Try it. Yeah, you try it. I don't know if I'll see your print there. So, yes, I can. Pinky Doodle Bug loved to doodle and draw. She doodled things in her mind and on things that she saw.
All right, I will turn the page.
See those beautiful little, oh no, I love reading children's books.
Can you see?
A little higher. Okay. She doodled on this and she doodled on that. She doodled on everything she could see and everywhere she sat. As she doodled, she thought there was something amiss. It was a thought she could not dismiss.
I love that picture. I just think she's so cute in that. I think if I had little girls, maybe even Quaid young, this homeroom might be Pinky Doodle Bug. I'm not sure. Poor Quaid.
So she called out for help from her friends, the birds, who answered her call with lots of kind words.
Can everybody see that, or does it have to switch?
No, I think it's good. They can see all the little birds and everything. It's beautiful. Okay. The birds of the forest flew in from the trees. They landed on branches and boulders with ease. And I think we should stop there because otherwise we're going to give too much away.
We'll give away. I do want to show character too, though. Is that all right? Let's.
So while you're finding a character, I can let folks know that we do have a coloring contest going up for Pinky Doodle. If you go to pinkydoodlebug.com, the coloring contest is there, and there's a couple different pages your kids or you could choose, and then we ask you to post it on your Facebook. Oh, look at, there's Murphy the Moose and Fred the Fox. Where's Benji the
Bunny? Everybody's there.
Porcupine. I love Pete the Porcupine. He's a fashionable critter. We have written the next sequel to Pinky Doodle Bug as well, but we'll maybe save that for another time. But
Pinky Doodle Dance, it comes out in May. And so that's at pinkydoodlebug.com. And then you have, we've just got more books. I mean, you've got your books coming out too.
It is. I am very excited about this. This book that I've written is called TERRAMARA, and it is a young adult fantasy book with magical water sprites and enchanted rivers. And, it's a made up land, but there's humans and sprites and they live together. And of course, there's going to be stuff that happens and a problem and how it gets solved. But it's definitely very whimsical and very, very magical. And I'm very excited that it is going to be launched on November 15th. So that's with Waldorf Publishing. And I got onto Waldorf Publishing because of the connections with Elizabeth. So, I mean, there's another thing. She was talking about writing in one of our Zoom chats. And I said, I wrote this story. I started it over 10 years ago when I was working in public education. I would write with kids, and then I started writing my own story. And I said, but I just never got back to it, but I'd always dreamed of finishing it. And in my mind, I've got it as a little novel series with 5 or 6 books, and I sort of had the outline done, and then I would write and I would read to the kids and they would read me what they wrote. And anyways, it sat there for 10 years. And then talking to Elizabeth, she said, Waldorf has sort of opened the gates. Let me connect you. And bada bing, bada boom. Now just within,
cool.
again, that was since January. So my first book I've gone through the whole process. I've got the jacket edits, reviews, all of that. So November 15th. And you can find all of that either from the yourlifesparkles.com website or chrisfullerauthor.com. And I'm Kris with a K. So Kris Upton, I know you're Kris with a CH. I see our names there.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you probably get spelling both ways all the time. That's one of my, people get my name wrong all the time, but it's difficult with the website. So it's KRIS, and then Fuller is easy, FULLER. And I had to add the word author.com because apparently I'm not the only Kris Fuller. It's pretty common. So do you find that, Kris? Is there a lot of Kris Uptons in the world that you know
Surprisingly,
of?
yes. Yes,
Okay.
there are.
Yes. So I'm not alone in that, but that's where you can find the information for my first ever young adult fantasy book coming out November 15th. So I'll be making a big splash about that with the help of my friend Elizabeth, and obviously Kris, you've got me mentioning it here. So that is exciting.
Yep.
And
Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we have a couple questions here. If you want to stop for a couple questions. Let's see. Quaid has a question. Quaid, if you want to go ahead and unmute your microphone and bring up your video, you can ask Elizabeth and Kris about your question.
Hi, so I have a question for both of you. Why did you both decide to become an author, and what were some of the major challenges of writing a book and the journal?
You want
Okay.
first, Kris, or you want me to go first, or
You go first. You go ahead.
Oh,
I love taking the limelight, so let you go first, Elizabeth.
You're so funny. So Quaid, you're probably so sick of this story. I've always wanted to be an author since I was little, like itty bitty all the way back to kindergarten. And reading and writing.
Just stop right now. I didn't even know that. And that's why we're secret best friends. I won a writing award in like grade 2. I won pots and pans for my mom, and I was like, oh, I love this writing stuff. So I didn't know you were also such a young writer, but
yeah. Oh,
you talking.
And I remember, that doesn't surprise me though. You're just so well read and well versed. So I completely see that. And so I just loved kindergarten for that. I mean, it was fun to teach some of the other kids who couldn't read so well to read, and, just reading's my jam, and so was writing. But it was really 3rd grade, Mrs. Shear at Riverdale Elementary School, when I wrote an essay about Mexican jumping beans in the middle of a table, listening to the conversation around them. And my teacher said, oh, you're going to be a writer one day. And I'm like, I am? She's like, oh yeah, definitely. And I kept entering essay contests all through high school. I wrote for the school newspaper, wrote for the college newspaper. I'm a journalism major in college. I'm a news anchor. Not so much of a news junkie, I discovered. It's a little too negative for me. So I've put my own spin on it through writing essays and writing books and things like that. And then you answer your part, and then we'll come back to like how hard was writing.
I feel like the answer is a little bit the same there, right? How did I first know that I wanted to become a writer or become a writer? Is the answer is I've always been a writer, but it's just taken the new format of maybe being official or being formal now that I'm getting some works published. If you look at things that I've done in these notebooks I talk about, I've always written poems and written prose and written stories, and I love it. And you can see my joy in reading as well. I love reading children's books, and I'm just a bookworm. So the same thing, reading and writing hand in hand. And the being a writer, I think even if you aren't a published author, if you're a writer at heart, write your heart out. Go write yourself stories and poems. And if you don't aspire to be published, that's still a beautiful platform for writing. Is letting that creative part of you be out there and be expressed. So anyways, I love it. I love writing.
I think one thing that stops people from writing is the fear of editing. And and we don't let that stop us, do we? No, we make so many mistakes, it's almost hilarious. Yeah. And so, the fear of perfection in writing, and who's going to read this, and is it properly sentenced and punctuated and all this stuff. Yeah.
Perfect. I think, the second part of Quaid's question there, what were the challenges in writing the book and the journal per se? In us, especially not being physically together, there's something that's really special about being at a boardroom table together where you can write and so I think that the proximity was one of the challenges for us. And I know over the time of us doing it, there were times when I was like, what version are you on? Is that today's? Is that yesterday's? And we were, trying our best to say, let's put the date, but then we would have too many exchanges. We're like, let's put the date and time. But then you're on the Eastern time and I'm on the Pacific time. So then I'm like, is that from 6 o'clock your time or mine? Oh, and it would just
Didn't even think about that.
to get on days when we were really working, we were just getting a little helter skelter. And then you'd see my impatience and I'd be like having a little temper tantrum and I'm like, I don't know what version we're on. So that was one of the challenges for sure. I think that honestly might for me have been really the only challenge per se, because there was editing that needed to be done, but that's normal. And then we lifted each other up. We caught things that the other didn't catch. Your kids and husband and my husband and sisters caught things that we didn't catch. Even my 8-year-old nephew caught a double typo that, so all of those things, I don't know if they were hurdles per se. I think that's part of the process. And I would say one of the things that has inspired me and made me so excited about wanting to do more projects with you is actually the lack of problems that we had, that we're both like, I would bucket us like this. We're like, yes, and,
Yeah.
you're like, what about this? Yes, and it doesn't feel like there's any like stone walls or hard stops or,
No.
I feel you're so encouraging and that it makes it such a beautiful place to be creative together.
Yeah, it's super fun. And it seems like the project starts one way and sort of gets better and better as it goes and changes. And I don't think we've yet to have, and I don't think we will have any like super big disagreements. One of us usually just goes, oh yeah, you're right. Or when it's really super.
Well, I agree. And I think
Yeah.
it is because our preferred style of communication is super direct without getting hurt feelings, right? When it comes to the work stuff. And when we have talked about personal stuff, we are soft lovey-dovey embracing women. But when it comes to the work stuff, we both don't pander around and be like, oh, I didn't want to hurt her feelings. You're just like, wrong paragraph, quote, word misspelled, no you in color. and we talked about this early on though, when we were like, work is work and let's not have these hurt feelings. And it was just for us both very easy. And I think that also comes from our leadership style and experiences that we've had. We both come from a background where you're like, no, yeah, work is work. And you just need to remember, what is the goal? Best product, best journal, like the most fabulous product that we can put out.
Yeah, I think one of our biggest decisions with the journal was what color to make it. We were originally, it was a little bit orange and we decided to make it blue. And so that was one of the things that I noticed.
And when you're aligned with that.
Oh, sorry. You're frozen. Are you good?
I'm back.
You good? Yeah, you're
Yeah.
back. Okay.
Yeah.
I was saying one of the biggest decisions that we had to make was what color to make it. Sorry, I didn't hear you if I
Yeah.
talked over you.
No, you didn't. I was listening to your color with no you. So in Canada, we spell a lot of our OUR words like color, honor, neighbor with OUR, like the British do. But it's acceptable to do both. So there's a lot of OR too. But I was taught OUR. So Elizabeth is constantly taking out my U's because I'm fine with both. But
You take out
it's
your
definitely,
funny.
yeah. But yeah, the color, and we had both wanted blue. And then we picked that sort of blue to teal ombre, which is really pretty. And we were concerned when it printed too. The printer said, it may come out purpley or gray, like it's tough to say. And it just came out so true to form. Yeah. And it's just stunning in color, which blue is one of our favorite colors, makes us both so happy as well. So another similarity, but I think those are the things to do. Go ahead, Kris.
You've got blue on right now, and
I do.
your eyes, for me anyways, your eyes look blue. So,
They are. I think yes, mine are blue eyes, blue checkers here. So it's my Canadian lumberjack shirt. I was actually doing yard work before I got on the call, so sorry I'm late.
That's okay. Well, the question I have is, you're in British Columbia, she's here in Maine. We have a book in the store from a local author, Sydney Ashcroft, and she has collaborated on her book. That's called Chasing Destiny with Danny Nichols. Danny is in California. Now, once a year, they get together for a couple of weeks. She'll come, let me rephrase it. Every 6 months, I think, they get together. She'll come out here. Sydney will go out there in 6 months. And I think they're collaborating on another book. Have you two met in person to collaborate? How do you do it? Do you do it via Zoom? Do you do it just sort of chat? Do you do it on the phone?
Yeah, we have not met in person yet. We had planned to meet in March, but at that Ben got sick at the end of February. And so then I was like, I don't want to go anywhere. I didn't know what that looked like. And then being Canada, US, the travel restrictions prevented us. So we have not met yet, although we have very big plans to do so in the near future as soon as we both can, because we're very excited about that. And then to answer the second part of your question, how we do it is a little bit of this and a little bit of that, right? We've used definitely Zoom, email, but even we're both pen and paper girls at heart. So we will print out current versions, both of us at home, and then do pen and paper writing. And then we will take our phones and send pictures of edits.
It's so easy. I think that's one of the best ways to edit. And actually, that works because you can kind of look at your phone and look at the computer to make the edits and so forth. But
it is surprisingly efficient, but it's also funny because I know Elizabeth's editing. When I get my phone goes bing, 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 I'm like getting 50 pictures all at once because she's written on them. And I'm like, okay, it's time to go to work. Elizabeth's gotten back to me. I'd say probably one of the hardest things, honestly, even though it's only 3 hours, is that time change. Because when I have like middle of the morning or middle of the day, she's like, oh, I'm making supper, or like just having different, like, or she's up in the morning and it's like 4 a.m. here. I'm like, oh, no dice, Ladybug. I am not awake at 4 a.m. So that little tiny issue is probably our difficulty, because when I'm like geared up and ready, I'm like, this is totally when I want to work, like 9 a.m. She's like, I also want to work at 9 a.m., but it's noon here and now I have other things to do. No. So, I mean, we work it out and we then we're not Zooming when we can't or whatever, but we've certainly seen each other in, you know, pajamas and glasses and cats and coffees and just like blurry eyed because, yeah. So that's kind of fun too, right? Feels like we're at the online slumber party. And I mean, we haven't even met and I'm like, oh, you're Jackie.
We have so much fun.
Are we going to work?
I have to say, technology does have its advantages. Today's technology. I don't want to say I'm not a fan of it. I use technology, but I can't imagine how a collaboration like this would work 30, 40 years ago.
No,
you know, that'd be a lot of stamps.
Yeah, no kidding.
It would be years.
It would take literally years because we are fast moving, fast working. And we were sort of, it was 6 months for us to do that project, the first journal. Yeah. And 6 months was fast, very fast, I would say.
My son has a question for Kris. Love it. And that's not
Cam, go ahead and go ahead and bring up your mic and your video there and you can ask your question.
Okay, so my question is, where do you draw inspiration for your work or projects when you feel you're starting to get stuck or are stuck?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And inspiration for me does come from a lot of different places. It comes from, I would say, mostly feelings. I'm very emotionally driven. So if I'm having a great day, I've just gone on a hike and I feel like uplifted and like, oh, fabulous, then that's when I feel like I want to work creatively too. And it can be that detriment then, because sometimes I'll be working until like 2 or 3 in the morning because I'm like, I'm on fire. And then I think the people that surround me also give me a lot of strength and lift me up. And in this exact example, I would say Elizabeth is one of those people too. Certainly with my year this year, I had a lot of hurdles. I had a lot of days on the writing and creative and working side that I was just like, I didn't have either time or I wasn't prioritizing it because my priorities were definitely elsewhere. And Elizabeth, though, was just a soft driver that she was like, hey, I've just looked at this, no rush, no pressure, but when you get a chance, take a look. And so, but not just like dropping me or like saying, oh, I'm just going to go ahead and do this on my own. So that gentle encouragement. And I had that from you, but I also had that from family. I've got 2 sisters here who I'm so close with, and they would just frequently check in and they would say, are you taking time and doing things for you? And so I think the inspiration comes from those feelings of feeling uplifted, but also the people in my life who would encourage me to go forward. So those are, yeah, that's my answer for that. Great question. Thanks, Cam.
One of my
both. Oh, go ahead, Elizabeth.
Well, one of my goals for Kris, this is my goal for Kris. It's not a goal for me, it's a goal for Kris. In getting to know her, she's a phenomenal artist as well. So if you are an actual artist with art in galleries and things like that. I mean, a phenomenal painter. And
Thank
so all I think about in my head, and the boys know this, is like, oh my gosh, a children's book with your paintings in it, you know, and doing,
Yeah.
oh, I just want to do that. So that's a collaboration in the works too, but your paintings.
Thank you.
That was one of the questions I was going to ask was, how did you divvy up the work? Let's take Pinky Doodle Bug. And actually, and even the journal for that matter. Who decided to do what? Or was it just tossing things back and forth? And then when it came to the publishing, the editing, the illustrations, how did you choose who you would go with for those particular aspects of the book?
Well, some things we don't want me doing. That's the best way to say it. Right, Kris?
I don't have anything to say about that. I think
No, you don't.
I feel like each project has sort of taken on its own life. So when we started the journal, it was sort of like the brainstorming was everywhere. And we literally spent, I think, a week talking about what was it going to look like? Who was the journal for? Was it for kids? Was it for adults? Was it full of pictures and drawings? Like figuring out what it was for. And that was just Zoom calls and then chatting. Once we decided on following the structure of the Best Ever You 6 principles, then we're like, okay, now we have an outline, let's commit to this. And so from there, we each sort of, we just divided things. And so if you look, the journal, the 6 principles are from the Best Ever You network. And so there's the spirit of you, which is all about your well-being, the sport of you, which is about your health, the humanity of you, which is about your role as a citizen, both locally and globally, the heart of you, which is about your emotions and feelings, the art of you, which is about your skills and talents. Yeah. And then the last one is the core of you, which is your values and your thoughts and beliefs. And I actually just said them in reverse order. I guess
that's okay. It worked.
But we used each of those as a launch point, and we were like, let's make each of these a chapter with 8 weeks each. So we kind of did the math and we went 52 weeks. How are we going to do this in a succinct way? So we took those 6 things and we were like, if we give each of them 8, then we'll have 4 left over. And so from there, we could sort of divide and go, okay, you work on that chapter and I'll work on this chapter, and then we'll switch and see if the questions make sense. So it was a lot of that, like the organization of who was doing what and dividing it up for the journal anyways, I feel was very fair, right? And even in that one, I had thought, oh, maybe I'll do the illustrations and the drawings and the little flower and coffee. But something we love and are both a huge fan of is, number 1, collaboration. And then number 2, using that bigger, broader network. And so Elizabeth had known Sally and was like, I think she would be just a really great addition to this project. And then we have 3 wonderful women from all different parts of the continent working on this project together. And I was like, that sounds fantastic. And it takes that off my plate when I'm very busy in writing and editing. So that the journal was sort of how that share of roles worked out. Do you have anything to add, Elizabeth, about that in the journal writing?
I think naturally when you collaborate, you lift each other up. I won't be so great at one thing, or it just is, I'll be better at something than you, or you'll be better than me, or any given day, something will take priority or whatever. And you just sort of have each other's backs. And those are the best kind of collaborations. And it doesn't get picky over details. It gets beautiful over the whole project. And so as you're working on the project, you're both working toward what can we do to make this project amazing.
And that's very,
I can't tell. Kris, did it cut out again?
Yeah, froze a little bit.
Okay.
It'll come back here in a second.
Yeah. So
even just having each other as a center. Everybody there? I'm here.
Yeah. Just repeat what you said. I don't think.
Okay. So I was just saying, I agreed with everything you said, but I also just loved having you as a sounding board. And one thing we both have said to each other many times this year since we've met was, I love what I'm doing, but I've been craving a partner, but a partner who is like so aligned with me, just that you have this, right? We've both worked with different people in our lives, different things, short little projects here and there, but nothing that felt like it wanted to have that longevity that like you and I have talked, and we're like, I don't want to do anything without you. I want to do projects for 10, 20, 30 years. Like I told Elizabeth I'm retiring in her backyard, so Peter better build me a house. So
We've designed, you've got that house with the connectors and the
I did. I sent her a picture of 2 houses side by side, and they have a glass pedway between them. And I was like, you can just build a little pedway and then a house. But just in looking at somebody that ticked all of the boxes for the beliefs and what we hope to achieve, and the energy and the gratitude, like just the who you are is what makes me want to work with you.
yeah, exact same thing, and more. So
Yes, and more, because we're not terrible writers. So there's that. Yeah.
How did you decide to go with traditional publishing versus self-publishing? Some you self-published, some you traditionally published. How did you decide which one to do what with and what?
We just throw bean bags, and wherever it lands, that tells us what to do.
I go
That's not
project by project. So we'll have an idea and really truly try and think, okay, what's the audience for this? But a lot of traditional publishing is wrapped in around a time frame. So a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to do anything unless it's traditionally published. And if that's the case, just be prepared for your work to come out a year or 2 or 3 or whatever it is from now. So self-publishing not only allows you to retain the rights, but also for you to have your own time frame and control of the project. So it just depends on what it is. Don't you think, Kris?
I think so, yeah. And I think for me, doing the TERRAMARA, I really was like, I don't know where to begin. Yeah. And this is really big for me. And so working with Waldorf was fantastic because they were able to walk and guide me through all of those steps and help me and do the things that a traditional publisher does. When it came time for the journal, now I have a partnership with you, and we thought, well, let's figure this out. And there was a huge learning curve there for figuring out how to self-publish and what that all took. And that was exciting as well. So yeah, I agree with you that it depends project by project. And Kris Upton, you were about to say something, and surprise, I interrupted.
No, that's fine. What was the hardest part about the self-publishing route?
My lack of patience. I want to learn things, but that's not entirely true. I want to know them immediately through osmosis. I want somebody to sit beside me and say, click here, this is this, see how easy? And I'm like, okay. So self-directing my learning was a true test for me because I want to know things now and fast, and I would learn a little and then I would try something. So for me, it was that learning curve because there was a lot. And now if I was to go and do again a self-published book, I've got a notebook with just thousands of notes of what I clicked, what I did, where I went, because you have to use a template. You have to format properly. You have to put things in properly, or your finished product is going to be an absolute disaster. And so that for me was the biggest, hardest thing. And that was something too, in Elizabeth and I's partnership, we really had to pick a captain of the ship for that. We shared, she shared a login with me so that we could both log in. But with the design stuff, you kind of had to have stuff on one home computer. And so we picked me. We were fools. It should have been you.
No, because we know my ability to do all that stuff is not there. So I think that's part of, if you're going to self-publish a book and you want to have something of quality, you need to know where your skill set rests, because if it's poorly edited or poorly put together and so forth, it might not have the results that you're looking for. And I would chime in and say how grateful we are to Waldorf Publishing and hold this up again, because this is so beautifully illustrated. They really put together a beautiful book. It's just quality and illustrated beautifully. And sometimes these are things that you can't, I know I couldn't do this on my own. If I sat to draw this, it certainly wouldn't, look like this. And so
even for TERRAMARA, that was something they provided me with, one of their artists that they use. And they said, we'd like to introduce you via online, and she's going to do all of the artwork for your book. And I was like, oh, perfect. Because with that book, I wasn't even thinking about a cover, because for me, it's a novel, it's the story. And I was like, oh yeah, I've got to get this story. I've got to figure out how these two sprites get down the mountain and go over there, and how they get the crystals. And, I had other problems to solve. So then, yeah, them providing me with an artist for that cover art was really neat too. And again, I like that collaboration. And
I think it cut out again. I would add to your question, Chris, about traditional versus self and so forth, and say, is Chris talking? I can't tell if I'm talking over Chris
No.
or if it's frozen. Okay.
No, I don't know.
I would say too, when you're thinking about traditionally publishing, one of the
I
most
thought you said-
important things is your platform. So your your social media platform and so forth. With traditional publishing, when you go to submit a book proposal and you have an agent and so forth and such, they look and see what your platform is for marketing and what your marketing plan is. So if you don't have that in place, you may find yourself with a rejection from a publisher.
Well, Elizabeth, one of the things we talked about before we went live was social media. And of course, that is a huge thing for both business, for authors, for marketing. How important is it? What do aspiring authors really need to do to get their marketing, to market themselves?
Well, writing, I would say writing is one thing and marketing it is a completely different creature. And I think writers these days need to be marketers as well. Kris?
I think the things that make you successful is that you have to make a plan and you have to be present. And that is whatever you're using. So I have friends who are very dialed into TikTok or Tumblr or Twitter. And for me, I'm still very heavy on Facebook and Instagram. But whatever you're doing, do it well. And you know, that consistency is key. You want to engage and you just need to show up and you need to be there. And so making a plan, and that is something, you know, get your calendar. And for me, it's the pen and paper one. And I'm writing on it and going, okay, every Monday I want to post about this. And I want to do videos where people see me and get to know me, get to like me, want to support me. But it is a whole nother job after you've written. You haven't even begun until yeah. And it doesn't end. Like we were just talking about that, Elizabeth and I, and she was like, you know, it doesn't end. Your book can have a life for so many years if you continually market it. But marketing it too, you have to be smart and you have to be strategic. You know, you don't just hop online or say bye. Like you can't be pushy. You want to be engaging, and so it is difficult to really crack the formula. But I think the key is consistency and engagement.
And I think community, like, for example, we have Marsha Waiteka on with us here listening, and, you know, it's really special. When people in your community hold up your book and acknowledge your work and support you, especially when you're tired after having just written it and so forth, it's like, I can't even tell you how much I appreciated Marsha's efforts. I felt like there were days where I could just be like, oh, Marsha's got us. I was tired from doing things. And it's just really special when other people help and chime in and so forth. But I think the goal is for your book to keep going. You know, you don't want to just put a book out there and have people not talk about it for years and years and years. You want that book to be successful, and so that will take some effort. I think no matter who you are.
Yes.
Really.
I'm glad you said that about community, because I think that's another key thing, right? And then the networking too, like even today chatting with you, Kris Upton, I get to find out about what your platform is. And of course I had a little scroll and I'm like, who else is he talking to? So every time you talk with and to someone else about what you're doing and notice what they're doing. And the same thing happened. I just commented back, Marsha wrote, I would love to be your cheerleader. And I'm thinking, yeah, Marsha, you are our cheerleader. Marsha has interviewed both Elizabeth and I too, and we've all adopted each other. So that's just how it happens, right? You meet people in all of these wonderful ways. And then when they champion and cheerlead you and your projects, that's just the best. That feels so good. But
yeah, but you
Now,
know, we also champion and cheerlead other people. Sorry, Kris.
No, that's okay. Besides just the two of you back and forth with each other, do you have your own independent support groups that you go to, or writing groups? For example, one of the other authors we had, she goes to a retreat every year. Of course, she can't do it this year, but she's found a new platform where she's connected with authors all around the country, and that's really helped her. Do you have your own individual platform support groups that you go to for your writing?
I do not.
and you know what? I would say that we're a part of a few like authors Facebook groups and Instagram groups that we have both invited each other to, where people bounce off ideas and say, how are you marketing this? What are you doing? Check out my stuff. So we're members of a few groups that we have found. And I invite Elizabeth. We don't own or run one ourselves, although we thought about that because we've gone through the process with so much stuff. We're like, maybe we should champion hey, do you want to be a new author? We can help you. But that's on the back burner with our 1,700 other ideas. But right now it is, I think, I think we're in every group I'm in, you're in, and we just sort of share like that.
Well, yeah, and I think one of the things that you were talking about, Kris, was like if I had a manuscript, for example, and like here in Maine, you can go to like authors groups at the library. They're not meeting right now, of course, but so that other people can read what you've written and so forth. And that is not something that I do. My sounding board is Kris. Yeah. And my husband, and as Cam and Quaid and the other boys would tell you them, one of my sons is a very good editor. And so I keep everything that I do really close. I think that's probably the best answer for that.
Well, Kris, you mentioned that you're thinking it's on the back burner, but you're thinking about maybe a Facebook group for writers. That kind of segues into my next question. The two of you are both CEOs for the Best Ever You Network, and it kind of, that idea sort of goes along with that. Now, I believe it's a radio show or podcast. Would you like to talk a little bit about that and how that works?
Sure.
Yeah.
You wanted to take it, Kris?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. Well, so in 2019, we decided to kind of move our companies together so that they work hand in hand. Kris is the CEO of Your Life Sparkles, and I'm the CEO of the Best Ever You Network. But we find that our companies are so similar that we're better together, and we're trying to still figure that out and so forth. But the Best Ever You Network, I formed that, oh gosh, I don't even know what year that was now, like 2008. I thought it'd be a great idea to go get a job after my little one went to kindergarten. And it turned out to be not the best idea. So I shut my door and wrote the business plan to the Best Ever You Network, and launched a very, very basic website and featured my friend from kindergarten on it. And so that's how sort of the Best Ever You Network was born. And it's seen different lives over the many years. And I think its best is now with Kris involved.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And over the years, I am going to jump in because you're not saying enough about how great your stuff is. Elizabeth hosts the Best Ever You show, and she has just recently hit the milestone of 500 shows. You're at 518 shows now or something like that. I was on your 500th show, and very honored to be part of it. But you interview all kinds of amazing people, from coaches to athletes to writers to moms who are doing it all, and other talk show hosts like Marsha, and just you have a wonderful, wonderful radio show where you really celebrate and lift up others, and you talk and listen to what it's like for them. And you've had me on a few times, and I've always enjoyed it. And so in looking at our merging and partnership, I started Your Life Sparkles in the latter part of 2018 with my two sisters, Lisa and Angela. And we just had this vision, this dream that we could make a difference in people's lives and help lift them up and bring them joy. And we started hosting events in our local area. But I always thought, what can we do that's even bigger and more fabulous? And so then 2 years had passed, and it was still sort of a little side thing that I was a little bit interested in doing. And coming into 2020, Ben and I had decided at the end of 2019 that we were going to shift, and I was going to stop doing my professional art and teaching and things I was doing. And I was going to take 2020 as a development year for me and really figure out what Your Life Sparkles was going to mean and make that business plan and do all that stuff. Enter curveballs of COVID and cancer and isolation and everything else. And I'm still kind of waiting to do that business plan, but the merging of Your Life Sparkles and Best Ever You has now twisted everything on its head anyways. So I'm the co-creative chair for Elizabeth's network, and she is the co-creative chair for mine. And we've both kept the platforms alive, even though hers is more established and has been going on for a lot longer. But I feel so much ownership with Your Life Sparkles still. So we're kind of like, let's let's let it ride. Let's figure out what this looks like. And that's part of our journey, is helping. And like the two networks are so cohesive, and it'll be fun and beautiful to see how we merge and evolve them. But yeah.
I think it's a great lesson in collaboration to keep people's stuff alive, you know, not absorb it and so forth, and keep the collaboration going, because they're just such a nice complement to each other.
Yeah.
I love it. And you know, I always say this to you, you know, she was doing things that I just wasn't doing and always wanted to do. And she has beautiful ladies day events, and she featured Percolate and gave the book out and all sorts of stuff. So it's just been really fun. And I think everybody's 2020 is turned upside down. And all of our plans have changed and things like that. And I think we're all I keep saying this, and so does Kris, we're sort of making the best of 2020 as best we can.
Yeah.
And
I think our ability to be honest and genuine with each other, and oh, Marsha, you just wrote, you do it because you're both genuine and real. I love you, lady. Is that is one of the things that makes, because we had talked at one time, because Best Ever You is verified and is a huge network across multi-platforms. And at one point we were like, is that the best plan for me to join Best Ever You and just both work with that? But I wasn't ready. And so we said, you know what, there's no roadmap, there's no right or wrong. We decide what works best, what makes our hearts happy, and what honors what we both want. And so that's been beautiful too, because there is no right or wrong. It's just whatever we decide, but it has to bring us both joy. And so we're both feeling really good about our partnership right now, and loving celebrating each other's network and loving all the work we do together.
yeah, and it's not a whose name comes first or second, or which name we use or whatever.
Because I'll interrupt you if I need to.
Yeah, and I intentionally switch it around all the time, and have fun with that, and that's just what's not. I can, you know, if I was maybe 25, I might be a little bit more aggressive toward it. I'm not sure, kind of thing of like, oh, this is really important to my brand and me and all this stuff, And at 51, it's kind of lovely to just sort of sit back and just let things be. And I think too, Kris has every password and everything, and it's so nice to just have her there. For everything. It's just been wonderful. I don't know how the stars aligned to be able to meet you.
I know.
It's a cool thing. If I think about it,
and in a group, honestly, I think about that frequently. In a group of
300,000 people.
How do you meet somebody that you're like, this is the person that I like and want to do projects with, and like want to be at family holidays with, and just the whole gamut. Like we both feel so blessed, and it is just the universe aligned in some fabulous way there. So
Elizabeth, is the Best Ever Network sort of an extension of your book Percolate?
Percolate is an extension of Best Ever You, actually. Okay. Yeah, the other way around. So Best Ever You existed for many years before that. And one of my goals, being the little kindergarten writer, was to always have a book. And actually, there's a gal by the name of Deb Landry who helped me publish. One of my goals was to publish a book by the time I was 40. And I really at first thought I was a children's book author. And I still think I am that. So I kind of go back and forth between self-help and children's books. But Deb Landry is a good friend of mine here in Maine, and she helped me publish a book called Blueberry, A Cat's Eye View of Maine. And 2 kids in high school illustrated the book, and it's just cute and sweet. And I think it's out of print now. I think that's one of my goals, is to kind of paint that book. You hear me, Kris? So have that book painted. But long story short, then came Best Ever You, and then came Percolate, I guess is the best way to answer that. Because Percolate is all about the 10 points of change, or 9 of them anyway.
Okay. Kris, did you want to talk about any of your other works? So let's go back to your upcoming, you said it was a young adult.
Yes, so it's called TERRAMARA. And it is the first in my hopefully 5 or 6 book series. It's the story of 2 water sprites, Mara and Ada. They live in the magical world of TERRAMARA.
Oh, it cut out. They live in the magical world of TERRAMARA. And it's actually a beautiful book. I've
The
read
rivers are
it.
in.
She goes,
There, am I back?
yeah, I
You're
covered
back.
for you.
Okay,
A
thank
little
you.
bit.
I know I see you guys freeze and then I think, oh shoot. So yes, they live in the magical world of TERRAMARA, and there's a river goddess, and the rivers flow both ways at the same time, and the water sprites water and look after the world. And then something happens to the river and they have to solve the problem with the humans. And so it is, I think, delightful, and it's, you know, the first book that I've written, and when I read it, I've read it chapters out loud. I sat up with my sister and her husband and I read till 3 a.m. and I was like, they were like, we want another chapter. And I was just so excited because I was like, I love that you love this book so much, even as, you know, they're grown-ups, but it really is a young adult. But I think some of those magical fantasy books really can cover a wider reach, because I know I still love reading those kind of books. So yeah,
We
for
have a
me,
lot of books that are young adult, teen young adult that I love, you know.
Yeah.
What was your process what is your process in writing this book? Do you get up in the morning? Do you do it during the daytime? Do you like to write in the evening? When you have a thought, does everything have to stop, and do you write it down in a notebook or a little digital voice recorder or something? What's your process in writing
Yeah,
this
I
book?
feel like if you were to take a top and do like this and then release it, I have moments where I just get like so excited, and I'm creative for days and days on end. One of the things that I found was successful for me is when I have that story in my mind. So this story, I wrote out everything that was going to happen in my notebook, like pen and paper. And it honestly was like, so if it was a story about you two, I'm like, Kris and Elizabeth go to the mountain, Kris climbs the mountain, Elizabeth falls down. But obviously I'm going to fill each of those with a chapter, and maybe something happens, maybe a wild raccoon bites your leg, and the, you know, there's a
Oh, she's
crisis.
got me. She's got me falling down and eating.
But I write.
I want to be
I
that him in the next one. That needs to happen. I need the raccoon to bite me.
I will consider it. I will
Thank you.
consider it. But I write the entire outline. So I'll kind of loosely number it, right? 1, 2, 3, and I'll get up to 38 where I've like mapped out the whole story just with like rough, loose words, like not the title of the chapter, but just the sort of event that's going to happen. And then what I will do is I'll start at the beginning, I'll start writing. If I get bored or stuck there, I'll go to another chapter and I'll write there. So I'll go to chapter 18 and I'll be like, oh, Kris and Elizabeth get lost in the tornado. I want to write about that. And I will write about that and continue there, and more things will pop up. And that just kind of gives me a break from, you know, boring chapter 5. Well, none of them are boring, but just when your brain gets like, And so I really flip fat back and forth. And it's interesting to me how new little problems or snippets or things will pop in as I do that. Cause it's like I write over here for a bit, and instead of letting myself just stuck on writer's block in chapter 5, I'm like, had a great time in chapter 18 and 19. And then I go back and I go, oh yeah, now I know what to do. And so I kind of weave it together like that. And as for a time frame, I'm a fast and furious writer. I know I said I started it 10 years ago and then I sort of let it be, but once I decided to finish it, it was sort of done within maybe 4 or 5 weeks. Just because I was so excited about it, because now I had a place to go forward with it. So I'm someone that works towards that goal, that certificate. And the certificate in that case for me was getting it, like having them say, yeah, this story looks great. When I first emailed them, I said, you know, it's not finished, but I have this delightful story. I would like to have you take a look. And they read it, what I had, the first sort of 5 or 6 chapters. And they said, it sounds really delightful, really special. So
really
we'd
good
love you to
book.
finish it. So then I was like, oh, now I'm excited. And so then I just really attack. And I think that is my system. When I look at us doing the journal or anything else, like I feel like once we have a goal, I just attack, but my attack is not always linear. So that's the answer to.
My books are never typed, ever. They're so crayoned and written. Isn't that odd? Yeah.
Highlighters and napkins and papers.
Oh yeah, I can't write books on the computer. I have to take plain paper together. Kris knows this. To take plain paper and staple like 100 pages together, or clip them like it's an actual book so I can visualize it. And then I have to write all over it. She's seen this. And
I have.
and then type it in. I cannot just sit down and think and type.
Yeah.
So Kris, when you were fast and furiously writing, did you have any interruptions and you just said, back off, I'm busy?
No, I usually make time for those interruptions. I feel I live because yeah, my interruptions are always my family. And so I gotta let them in and I gotta do things with them. And I think sometimes one of the problems is that you know, Ben would say to me, like, I think you've been writing for 22 hours. Like, I think you need to sleep more than just what you need to go to bed. So it would be him trying to look after my self-care. But yeah, no, I don't. I that's something that I find is difficult for me to balance that. And especially once I get in sort of that groove, I'll go to bed and at 3 a.m. I'm like, I know what they do after they go to the well. And then I have a notebook by my bed and I'll just try to write those down. Or I'll even use my phone and just say it in a groggy voice, like to remember, don't forget in chapter 11, they're going to turn around at the, or whatever. So it's hard when I'm in the creative process because it just strikes me at all times. And I actually just wrote something else here. Elizabeth, I'm going to show this to you. I don't know if you can see it. Let's see. Yeah. So see the top thing? Can you read that or is it backwards for you?
Wild raccoons.
Yeah. So that's Elizabeth saying, look, can you edit this for me? I'm like, sure. And then by like the 4th hour, she goes, can you edit that for me? And I'm like, I can't even read that. It's just a scribble. And that's her books because she starts all like nicey pants writing and she's like, and then we do this stage 1, chapter 2. And then at the end, it's like, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I'm going to need a little more formation in the letters because let's get tired. I do notes with pen and paper and I do my chapter outlines. But after that, I am a typist on the computer.
Yeah, I'm a creature of the
You're a wild raccoon.
I'm a wild raccoon. Yeah, I have to get nocturnal writing is my jam too. 3 a.m. up, and my husband's just used to it.
Yeah,
and then you're back in bed at 7 after you got the idea that came to you in the middle of the night. You know, you kind of are frustrated. You can get frustrating, but it's like a blessing and the same because you're trying to sleep or whatever. But once you get rolling on a book, your brain doesn't stop. It's hard to explain until the book is done. You're thinking about it all the time. I know that was like that with the journal.
Yeah, that's true.
So what are your inspirations for your books? Any particular authors or any particular other genre that, you know, obviously Kris, yours is a fantasy book. Elizabeth Percolate is more of a self-help type book. Was there any inspirations from any other books or authors?
I love C.S. Lewis and my mom did too, and The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe and all of the, that was one of my favorite books growing up and my mom read it to us as kids and other ones as well. And another children's author that I just love is Roald Dahl. And I love his like quirky, funny use of language and even just, I mean, Roald Dahl has a book called The Twits and it's about a couple who they're the twit. And I just love that he uses the word twit. It was like such a bad word, but it was so delightful. And then the adventures and stories and just the sheer fantasy of it, like the tomfoolery and the ridiculousness. I loved stuff like that. And then growing up and older, I do love the Harry Potter series. Those books are delightful to read. And so I mean, I could probably sit here and talk about young adult and fantasy and fun authors until the cows come home. But off the top of my head, those 3 really, really shine for me.
I think I'm the same way. I don't think I ever didn't carry around Stuart Little as a child. The thin book with the little pencil illustrations or the Trumpeter and the Swan, all of the James and the Giant Peach and Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator, you know, all those books as well. I'm in the children's book world. I'm just a huge fan of Jan Brett's. I think her books are just, you study them and look at them. And so I actually have an original kind of like Jan Brett book that I bought. So kind of a collector of children's books and so forth. And then I love Christmas books too. I don't know. I don't know. I have so many children's books just probably from having 4 boys.
Yeah. I love Christmas books too. And our mom every year for Christmas gave us a Christmas book that was usually beautifully illustrated, hardcover, and lots of them were traditional stories, but lots of them are these new age, like the Christmas Camel or whatever. And so I have, 39 books that are from my mom, all signed with the Christmas year, and my siblings all do too. So I love that you love Christmas books too.
Yeah.
I love rhyming poetry, and I love writing it. I love reading it. I love reading it to children and seeing them sort of like get the cadence. And there's something delightful about listening to a well-written rhyming book. And I love poetry. So yeah, there's so many inspirations for me out there.
When I was
We'll have to,
oh, sorry. Go
we'll have to invite you to our poetry nights once we start getting those going again. We're going to start probably next month or so. I'm going to try and we did it once a month in person, but now with the Zoom thing here, I might go ahead and get that going again online.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. The I was thinking of Dr. Seuss a little bit, but I used to love that book, Oh, the Places You'll Go.
Yeah.
And just, just all those just different books that make you just think different, and the Winnie the Pooh book, and just Peter Rabbit, the little series, the Beatrix Potter. But yeah, I think I'm a I'm trying to think of self-help books that I love too.
You know what's so funny? I was thinking about that too, and I was like,
We're going to children's books. Like,
yeah. With the self-help book, because I feel like I'm constantly reading them, but one of the things I do with those type of books is I pass them forward. I don't in fact, with a lot of books, except for my Christmas ones, the last move that we made, Ben and I didn't keep our bookshelves, and I was like, I think I want to be a pass books forward. I look behind you, Elizabeth, you've got books and books and books.
Yeah.
But they just are one of those things that we just decided, we were like, let's just read them and pass them forward. So we changed what we were doing with our books. So when it comes to children's books, I'll keep a couple really special ones, like my Christmas ones, or ones that were gifted to me from somebody special. But with the self-help ones, I often just read them and then pass them to someone who needs them. And so I've read lots that are like, be your best and inspire, or go get them, or whatever it is. And I read them and pass them along. So
I think it's hard to, when you're writing concepts in self-help books, to me, I sort of keep other people's works out of my brain. And a lot of that because you need to think clearly about the concepts that you are writing. Yeah. So I will tune out other people's self-help books while I'm writing my own. And then kind of come back to them. But children's books are always there for me. But like right now I'm writing a new book, so I'm not absorbing other people's information super well right now, if that makes any sense.
Have you thought about putting your books on in audiobook format?
Yes, I know Pinky Doodle Bug will be. I think again, project by project, I don't think our journal should be an audiobook. I don't know. It could be, I guess. I have to think about that.
What about
It
Percolate?
could be, but I think for us, the journal, because we have a Facebook group, we talk about every week's prompt weekly. If you've bought the journal, you can join us there. So that is, you're hearing us read the prompts and read the journal and then share and read our insights. For my books, I would love them to be on an audiobook. And I think that's something that in my publishing contract with Waldorf for TERRAMARA, we're looking at that as a next step. It's part of we will look at that with you. And so I'm learning about that. I will report back to you, but.
And with Percolate.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, you asked me about Percolate, and I would tell you that it was probably part of my learning curve as a traditionally published author. It wasn't something I even thought about. Again, I'm not a huge connoisseur of audiobooks. So I didn't really even think, oh, Percolate needs to be an audiobook. So that's actually, I don't think, in my contract. But as I move forward and do other things, I will now know better.
We partner with and a lot of other independent bookstores across the country and in Canada for that matter, partner with an audiobook company called Libro.fm, and sales through them, the store gets a portion of those sales. And
Nice.
So one thing to mention to maybe the publishers is that be careful with Amazon. And that's the only time I'm going to mention them. or in other words, that company that shall not be named. But anyways, they have an exclusivity thing where we can't sell it. We won't advertise it either if it's only exclusive on them. So the one thing with Libro is, I post links to the audiobook of the books that we have in any posts or on our website, everything that we do. So something to think about, something to look into. My shameless plug for the evening.
That's all right. I wrote it down. Libro. Perfect.
Libro.fm. Yep.
No, thank you.
Now, I had another question, and I don't remember what it is.
Because is it your birthday? When did you say it was?
Yeah, so yeah, in 2 days. In
Happy
2 days,
birthday.
I joined the Half Century Club.
This is
All
what
right.
happens when we turn 50. We forget our
I know.
questions.
I know.
I'm sorry. Welcome to 50.
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome.
It was about the audiobooks. I don't remember, but anyways, so it didn't have to do with audiobooks. What are you reading now?
Oh, I'll let Kris answer that first.
I've got 2 books on the go, and one is Delightful Times and Stories with Cats. It's too far, but it's cute little 1 and 2 pagers about how people and their cats have wonderful times together. And so a friend of mine bought that for me in the summer to cheer me up and bring me joy. And so thank you for that. And then the other one that I'm reading is, I forget. It's a trilogy. A guy that writes a whole bunch of, I'm going to get the book.
I'm going to cover for her while she gets the book.
Well, while she's doing that, actually, the question that I was going to ask for Percolate especially, is and even actually the 52-week journal is we do have a couple audiobooks or a couple books in the store that I've listened to via audiobook, and you download the audiobook, but it also comes with a PDF.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So I guess you go to the author's website. Yeah, you go to the author's website and you can download the PDF of, well, in this case, whatever, I guess wherever you take your notes or keep track of your journey. So that's an idea as well.
Yeah. As for me, as to what I'm reading right now, I'm actually not reading anything right now, like I was saying, because I'm actually writing a new book. So it becomes really tricky for me. So my reading while I'm writing a new book will be catalogs, newspapers, magazines, things like that. But I do have a, the one thing that with Best Ever You is we have a lot of other authors that send us their books for our awards. Our awards are free. We have a book award, product award, and things like that. And so when the books come in, I will read those. And one of the books that I really love that I've received recently is Spark Change by Jenny Lee. And I would highly recommend having her on here if you get a moment, Kris, because she's written a really fabulous book and the publisher Sounds True. And it's 100, it's kind of a journal in a sense. It's 108 questions. And so it's a real self-introspective book. And she and I are friends, and she's just a lovely person, and it's a really good book. I think Marsha's interviewed her and Kris knows her, and she's a lovely person.
So I did run to see what I'm reading. It's the trilogy series by Ken Follett, and he writes, just about world events and makes them into delightful stories. So I like a little historical, fact-based, but not entirely factual. And then I always have like a few things on the go. Like right now I'm reading this one, Breathe, Empower, Achieve, and it's 5-minute mindfulness for women who do it all. And I can just flip to a page and read one little thing that just reminds me to be mindful. And so I'll have little things like that. I mean, I always have my Percolate handy as well. That's Elizabeth's book. And she writes little anecdotal stories in there too. So sometimes I'll just flip to a page and read those. I feel like I do like.
I like a page book. Yeah.
I like ones that have little bursts that I can read a page or two and feel satisfied. Like, okay, I accomplished something. Like the Ken Follett ones are like this thick hardcover, and they'll take a little more. But these are, so I usually don't read one book at a time. I usually read a couple. But.
Great. Well, we're at the end of our time. We could go on. I actually do have a few more questions, but what I'd like to do is invite Marsha as our last attendee, if she'd like to come on real quick and maybe say a few words to the two of you. You're welcome to.
We lost my homework.
Hang on.
Hi, Marsha.
Why it's not working?
Yes, it is.
I hear you.
Oh, well, okay. Well, here's my video. I can't start my video.
Oh, you are? Hi.
Because I have my books all set out. You know, I've got my books.
You are so good.
You know, Kris, you've been able to speak for an hour and a half, which is a very long time, to two very accomplished women. And I feel privileged to even be in their company. And it is through social media. It is how we get out there. I'm in California, Elizabeth's in Maine, Kris is in Canada. Life is grand, and I am delighted to have spent this hour and a half with you guys. It's made my day, and I want to just thank you both very much.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you,
definitely.
Marsha.
Thank you for-
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have my New Hampshire mug. Can you see it?
Oh, yeah.
Chris?
Yep.
Oh, the fall.
Well, great. And so Elizabeth, Kris, again, thank you very much. Marsha, thanks for sticking with us for the hour and a half.
course.
Elizabeth, thank your sons. They're off doing their homework, but thank them for joining us as well. We do have a couple here on Facebook Live too. Thank you very much for joining us on Facebook Live. As soon as we're done, the video is available on Facebook Live, so you feel free to go to our Facebook page, the video section, and feel free to share it with everybody. I'll have the links for you, Elizabeth and Kris, tomorrow. I'll email you the link to download the video from Zoom, and also you can share it that way as well. I have limited space, otherwise I'm going to have to pay for more. I guess that's the way things work. But so I'll leave it up there for a few days. Actually, I think you're my last interview for at least a couple weeks, so I can leave it up there for a little while longer if you want to share it around a little bit. But
Awesome.
Percolate and Pinky Doodle Bug and a few others will are available in store, and they'll be available through our website as well. So check them there. Again, libro.fm, bookshop.org. There's another organization too that helps support our local bookstores, us and others around the country who are partnered with them. Sales proceeds from the sales come back to us. So if your books are available through Ingram, they're available on bookshop.org as well. So we'd definitely like to promote them too. So again, Elizabeth, Kris, thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.